Hello, and thank you so much for taking the time out to listen. Today, I titled this message, The Children You Guard Yourself Around. The Children You Guard Yourself Around. You don't think about having to pray the kind of prayers of protection when you know that a child is on his or her way to come visit. You don't think about having to tiptoe around a child when it comes to your conversation about certain subjects related to them. We're not talking about inappropriate conversations, but just things that are related to the way they behave, the way the people around them behave. You don't think about having to go into spiritual warfare because a child is in your presence or because he or she is going through his or her share of milestones. You don't think about any of these things. All you see is a young person seated or standing before you. You're thinking about the typical things, right? Like conversing with them about school or friends, their hobbies. You just don't think deeply at times when it comes to children, because children are just playing in the next room, and children are watching television, or they're on their computers or gaming devices or in their cell phone. And the only time that you really want to do some things is if that child is inconveniencing you in some way, because usually children don't want to hang around boring adults. But then if they do something that causes you to have to get up out your chair or run into the next room or take something away, or in some cases, not be so laid back and chill, because once again, I've got to deal with this little human being. Oh, come on. Remote learning. Lots of parents are doing it these days. Lots of grandparents are doing it these days. There are those individuals who they're going over to their parents' house with children in tote. And there are those parents that are getting tired of seeing their sons, daughters, or grandchildren. Truth be told, are we going to keep it honest, or are we going to tell lies? Are we going to pretend like everything is just peachy all the time? Of course not, because on this channel we speak truth, not the lie. And the lie that some people have been fed is that they can handle children. But God knows they can't. The lie that some folks have been telling some individuals through photographs and video is that we're close and we're getting along and everything is just fine. And we know better. From the little baby to the young adult, we know better. So for some of you all who don't have children, but you know people who do, you need to be in some serious prayer. We've got some children in the camp, though, that the Lord says to guard yourself or even keep distance. These are the children who they are truly bred to be children of darkness. The worthless ones, the ones who are always in trouble. They got some kind of issue because the influences around them never got help. Never felt that they needed to get necessary resources to parent children, to grandparent children. So these children are the ones that they may look very innocent, beautiful, maybe smart, may have a lot going on for them, but the Lord says, I've got to stress this for some individuals, you've got to guard yourself around. These are the rebellious ones, the disrespectful ones. Don't mind saying any number of words to you. Not that long ago, I had my own situation with one of the sons. And I had to remind him who he is talking to. You see, if you attempt to enforce rules, there are those children who they're not fearful. They're not concerned in the least. They'll push back. Sometimes it is physically. Some of you all, you wouldn't dare to do some of the things that some of these children would do. But you see, we live in a different time. And when those that were saying things like, I would never do this or I would never do that, right? Because you at the time didn't have any children. Come on. So we said a whole lot of what we wouldn't do until we had our own children and we saw how a beautiful child can turn into a nightmare. So once again, God is reminding us that we have to guard ourselves. And what does that look like? That looks like, I can't be your friend. I can be your mother, your father, your grandmother, your grandfather, but I can't be your buddy. Let's sit back and curse and talk crazy and let me say the kind of words that you say, and I got to appear like I'm so youthful and down to earth. Because see, usually they take that and they use it against you later. They consider you to be an equal rather than a parent. And so no telling what comes out of their mouths. So you have to rein them back in. And then, of course, be at times the strict one, even though you don't want to. But even teachers have to do that at times. We're guarded around that sneaky one, the one that you caught him or her stealing things, taking things that didn't belong, breaking things and not telling anyone, sneaking out the back door, coming through the front, taking money and using it for things that he or she would never admit to. The spies. This one is a good one. These children are the ones who the parents tell them what to look for, what to ask for, what to watch for. These are the ones who go back and report detail. So my aunt, she was asking me these questions, and my grandmother, she was telling me this, that, and the other. And Mom, I was feeling uncomfortable and all that. Well, the child was trained to feel that way. Meanwhile, what were the questions? Simple ones like, oh, how's your day? Oh, you're getting bigger. How's school? But the parents have established so much in that child's mind to be concerned about that the child can't even be a child. They can't sit comfortably. They can't have fun. They're looking at you, staring at you, watching every move you make. They're very careful about what they say to you. You're like, lighten up. Good Lord. Well, if I say the wrong thing or if I give up some information, I don't know if you, parent or grandparent, are going to go back and tell my mom or my dad. And they already said they were going to whip me, hurt me. So I got to get information, detail before you get it from me, if you get anything. Some of you all, you say children, at least some of them, they got a lot on their plate because the parents and the grandparents and whoever else they're around, foster parents, got them that way. So they can't sit comfortably. They can't play, in the way that they would like to play, because I was told another group of children you got to be guarded around are the angry and the resentful ones, because you never know if they got access to the gun. You never know if they might have access to the alcohol or the prescription medicines or what have you. And they know that something on the inside is very upsetting and very wrong, and they don't know how to express it. And so they find themselves, in a functional way anyway, they don't know how to express it. So they find themselves doing the unthinkable. If they said some angry words, if they were very threatening, if they said the types of things that left the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, you better be watching your back. Matter of fact, if you don't have to be in the presence of that child because that's not your child, for instance, then you are going to have it easier to just leave, separate, distance yourself from, as opposed to the parent who, this is my child. Yeah, but there are some options. And a video a long time ago I put out was something along the lines of children who are rebellious and what to do with them. Some people feel like they don't have any choices. I will tell you that some people in my own family who saw that there was some children who was constantly getting in trouble with the law, there was the military option. Other children that were just having all sorts of mental health issues, there were those parents who put them in foster care because they couldn't handle them, because they had their share of mental health issues. There were those children who they simply found resources through the schools, through the networks. And that's why they're able to function and do well in life. It took a while. Their parents didn't even bother to look into what was really going on, but the teachers saw, and they got those necessary resources. And so, there is hope. But in the meantime, if you don't want to be the one losing your freedom behind a child, if you don't want to be the one sleeping with one eye open, if you don't want to be the one having all sorts of arguments with your son or your daughter about your grandchildren, if you don't want to be the one that's sitting up there checking everything in your household after they left to make sure they didn't take anything, then you got to be guarded. And you've got to find the necessary resources to help you and help others if you're able to, because then you got some parents who push back and say, there's nothing wrong with my son. There's nothing wrong with my daughter. Okay. And then 3, 5, 10 years plus later, we hear the stories. We see the things out there on the social media that some of these rebellious, resentful, sneaky, spy children do. Arrogance. That's another group of children you're guarded around, because the arrogant one thinks that, as my mother said a long time ago, oh, so you think that your poop don't stink. You see, the type of arrogance is this arrogance where they've, let's say, gone off to college and they come back and they know everything. The type of arrogance where they don't feel like they have to be responsible or take care of their necessary tasks while living at home. The type of arrogance where my daddy, he'll help me. I don't need you, mommy. Or my mommy will help me. I don't need you, daddy. The step parent who shows up and they're thinking to themselves, what did I get myself into? Because you've got this, you're not my mother, you're not my father. And so you're trying to, enforce rules, and they're not having it. They got more money in their trust fund than you'll have in your lifetime. Come on. This is the child that you're going to be guarded with, because 9 times out of 10, whoever they got wrapped around their finger, all they have to do is say, she hurt me. He did this to me. All because they can't get their way. The greedy children really guarded around these individuals because their health and your health might be at stake. What do I mean by that? They want the food and more food, and they want you to buy and buy some more. And that can stress you out when you don't have much. And that can stress you out when the greedy child goes back and says, she didn't feed me. And you know that the child already ate 3, 4, 5 times that day. Which brings me to the next point. Manipulative, lying children. Now you couple that with greed. They try to figure out ways to get more gifts, more money, more opportunities. So they might tell you a story or two, and then by the time everybody knows what the story is, that child is like, well, I'm sorry. No, sorry's not going to help all these lies that you told. So now here comes the consequences. And they're going to tell lies concerning those as well. Everything was worse than what it really was, which brings me to the next point. The exaggerators. Got to be guarded around them. These are the ones who are going to exaggerate what you said, what you did, where you went, who you were talking to. They're going to say that, oh, this happened and it was crazy. And grandma, she just kept talking about, you and she was saying all these things. And they're just blowing up everything. And it really wasn't that serious. And now people are not talking to each other because of what that child said. Some people may even be in trouble with the law because of what that child said. And all we got is Jesus. Come on. You see, this is why for some of you all, you don't work with children any longer because of the exaggerators, because of the greedy ones, the manipulative ones, the liars. You don't let children visit unless they have an adult present. You won't tell a lie on me. I remember when I was younger, I was much younger, and I was referring to a child, and you know how you say those like little sweet words like honey, babe, sweetie. And my thing back then, because I was a teenager hanging out with a bunch of teenagers, and we were always saying babe. And so I said babe, maybe one too many times, I guess. And the next thing you know, the director was sitting down with me talking to me about, let's be careful the words that we use. I mean, I know that, that's what you and your friends say, but, try not to, say those sorts of words, And I was like, oh, and I learned early on, and I was only but a mere 15 years old. And I learned, okay, you don't call children honey, sweetie, babe, or any of it, even though some people say, well, I do that all the time. Well, when you're working in a professional atmosphere, there's a whole lot of stuff that you can't say and you cannot do. And I was even guarded about putting my hands on a child, such as, how you're trying to guide them over to their seat, or you don't want them to fall off of a chair that they're standing on or what have you. So you're using your voice. Please step down off the chair. Even though your first reaction is, I want to, grab the child so that they don't fall. You see? Because why? You don't want the child to go back and say, she hit me or grabbed me. And you're like, what? I was just trying to keep you from falling off the chair. Fighters. These are the individuals who they don't mind fighting. They're going to fight with you about just about anything and everything. And as much as we don't want to argue, and as much as we don't want to fight with these individuals, sometimes there comes a point where you end up having to stand your ground, having to raise your voice. having to protect yourself. That's why for some teachers, they have taken self-defense classes. Other teachers, they have had to protect themselves with restraining orders. There are those parents who have had to send children off. The things that we have to do because someone is untrustworthy. They're difficult. They're sneaky. They're an exaggerator. They're a liar. They don't mind hitting a person in an authority position. And so our last group of children, mind you, this is the Lord that was speaking to me about these sorts of children. And for some of you all, it is disappointing to hear, because this may be for some of you all your calling, but you still got to be guarded though. This last group of children, they're often sad, they're depressed. You hate the fact that they're like that. But there's only so much you can say, there's only so much you can do. You may have already tried everything that you learned when you attended college and you read books and you had your own personal experiences with depression and sadness. But no matter what you say, no matter what you do, it's not getting through. This is where you need multiple resources and multiple witnesses. Everybody needs to know what is going on with all of these children. Because if we keep those secrets and we don't say anything, somebody is bound to do something that's going to cause all sorts of issues. Somebody is bound to do something that is going to eventually come back to haunt you. I should have said something. I should have talked to the parent. I should have talked to, the therapist, the counselor. I should have gotten all hands on deck, but I didn't. I mean, I saw the signs that, he was so depressed for so long, and he was talking about how, he didn't want to live anymore. He didn't want to exist. He was going to, kill himself, and I didn't do anything about it. And, I should have made the phone calls, and, maybe he would still be alive. See, you can save all of the regrets and the guilt trips and all of that other stuff if you're just on point with these individuals that God has trusted you with, at least for a time. Because for some of these individuals, we know that God has showed you who they really are, because your time is dwindling with these grandchildren or with the students, or your time is dwindling with your stepdaughter or your stepson or your boyfriend's daughter or your girlfriend's, son, you see, or you can't deal with that job any longer. So in the meantime, you got to do what you need to do. This situation that you're in, it doesn't have to be one of those situations where you feel like you can never get out of. It may be one of those situations where it's not about you getting out of, but it's about pushing somebody away, sending someone to get that help. It may be having to separate from the parent who has any one of these children in the category, and they don't want to do their due diligence. They don't want to do their part. They look at you as the bad guy because you are the enforcer, because you are the one that wants some folks to be looked at, because you are the one that will spend no matter how much money you got to make sure that this child gets all the necessary care that he or she needs. When I saw that one of my sons, because I told you I have 4 sons, and at some point there were those moments where I said, oh, I got to be guarded, even with my own children, because they were going through some type of milestone, something developmentally, puberty, you know how it goes for some of you all. And so there were different time periods, especially in the with the two oldest, because there were times where I didn't see them. So when I did see them, I'm having to get to know them, And so there were things that I picked up on, and I was like, okay, I've got to be guarded at this particular time period while I'm seeking the necessary resources, while I'm guiding, teaching, giving them what I call these life lessons, you see, because I can't allow my emotions to be caught up in whatever it is that they're going through, to the point where I end up doing something that I might regret. So, we right now as parents, we are trying to figure so much out concerning the remote learning, because it seems like there's always some kind of challenge, something new, right? Something that the children are talking about, they're struggling with, or they don't understand, or they don't want to be bothered with. But you're going to do your work, even though you don't want to. And you're going to do the best that you possibly can. And if you're not going to, then, well, all these lovely items that you have are going to slowly but surely disappear out of your room. Capiche? Comprende? You see. So, lots of work to be done. But I just want to encourage some parent. You got this. Come on. You got this. And whatever you don't understand, somebody got a YouTube video about it. Come on. Somebody got something to help you. So thank you, as always, for taking time out of your schedule to listen. You've been listening to YouTube, NM Enterprise 7. Feel free to like, subscribe, comment. We do welcome giving on this channel, and thank you.